Hello, everybody. The approaching solar eclipse in Purva Ashadha Nakshatra on the 26th of December coincides with an intensifying conjunction between Saturn and Pluto. If you're interested in looking at your own horoscope in relation to these changes or anything else, please keep in mind that between now and Thursday, the 28th of November at 11 p.m. London time, I'm offering a 15% discount on all consultations using the discount code TEALConsult at the link above. So since I released a video on the solar eclipse and released a video on the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, I got inundated with a lot of requests for more information on how to understand Pluto in relation to Vedic astrology, a little bit more information on the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, and also more information on the solar eclipse. So I thought that I would go a little more into depth with it. First of all, when we're talking about the outer planets, which are Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, these are sometimes called the transpersonal planets. They create massive changes in the world. Not saying that the other planets don't, but they create massive changes in the world that are, I want to use the phrase that relate to global karma, right? And of course, as individuals, they impact our own individual karma. An interesting concept about the transpersonal planets or the outer planets is you can't see them without the aid of a telescope, where all the other planets, Sun through Saturn, you definitely can. Now, if you look at the analogy that Ketu and Rahu are both planets that you can't actually see because they're not physical presences, and if you take into account that you do see a manifestation of Ketu and Rahu twice a year when we have eclipses, then you can understand that a good way to understand the outer planets is to recognize that they tend to play out their drama through the nodal axis. And this is something that is definitely true. And it's a really powerful situation that we have approaching because obviously, this intensifying conjunction between Saturn and Pluto happens in association with the solar eclipse, which is obviously when one of the nodes aligns with the new moon, right? So all that we were just saying about how powerful the nodes are in relation to understanding the outer planets, that becomes intensified at this particular moment in time. Now, if you want to look at the aspects with the outer planets, in association with Vedic astrology, there aren't really special aspects. So you have to use something called the Tajika aspects, which are used in Vedic astrology, but are more familiar to people who approach astrology from a Western perspective, because these are the aspects like sextile, square, trine, etc. And to understand this particular period of time that's approaching, you need to take into account that this solar eclipse is going to be forming a trine with Uranus. That's pretty powerful. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And the intensifying conjunction with Saturn and Pluto, that's creating a sextile with Neptune. So there's a lot of outer planet energy that's active at this particular moment in time. So in order to understand the outer planets just a little bit more before we go into the interpretation, a good way to look at them is to relate the energy of Uranus to that of Brahma. Sometimes things have to be shaken in order for something to be created. The energy of creation is often quite chaotic, and Uranus tends to behave in that way. You can understand Neptune as being related to Vishnu. Vishnu has many different forms, but underneath all those different forms is the essence of God, which is Vishnu, right? So Neptune often creates things that appear to be one way on the surface and that cause us to explore more deeply in order to come to an understanding of a deeper relation to the truth. Now, Pluto, our buddy Pluto, is like Shiva. So as you can understand, this is some pretty powerful energy that we have approaching. Pluto creates a lot of challenges in our life, but it creates those challenges because it's trying to teach us to let go of those things that we don't need And it's also doing it to test our strength and see what we'll hold to and what we'll let go of. It tests our truth, right, on a certain level. It causes us to explore our vulnerabilities in order to more deeply reclaim our power. So somewhere in one area of your life, you're going through a deep experience like this. And as you're trying to sort through it, things perhaps feel a little bit nebulous. There's a lot that's being shaken to the surface in your life, and it's really intense, understandably so. So what's at the root of all of this? What is all of this about, right? Well, you're trying to figure out the next step forward for you, right? Your life is changing. It's hard to let go of what once was because you don't really see something new that's around the corner that you can have a clear perspective of. Remember I said it's a rather nebulous energy, right? But coming out the other side of it, even though you may be kind of being shaken to feel a lot of fear in association with this particular transit, this is really to do a couple of different things because Uranus is in Ashwini Nakshatra, whereas Neptune is in Purva Nakshatra. We're going to go a little more deeply into that here in a moment. But Uranus in Ashwini Nakshatra is causing us to look at what we feel is dharmically correct in our heart. And it's bringing challenges into our lives and creating a lot of chaos to cause us to really examine what we feel is righteous within our heart. Right? And it's likely making you feel pulled in a couple of different directions and uncertain of which direction you should ultimately go in. And it's causing you to question what's right and what's wrong. Because at the solar eclipse, you've got the sun and the moon, because solar eclipses always happen on a new moon, Jupiter and Ketu all squeezed into Purva Ashadha Nakshatra. Purva Ashadha Nakshatra whittles away at the ego quite often. It's associated with Appa, who is a water deity, and its energy is that of purification. It tries to make us understand that if we want to dwell in the ego, then we're going to be confronting a battle almost all of the time. But if we go to the closest approximation of our understanding of the purity of who we are, then things suddenly not necessarily get easier, but you're adhering to that which is right. And through adhering to that which is right, ultimately you begin to trust much more that everything that's going on in your life is right, true, and appropriate. But at the time of this solar eclipse, there's likely a lot of questioning in association with that. Ketu has this tendency to suppress all the other planets. So Ketu there with Jupiter is causing you to question your beliefs. Ketu there with Saturn is challenging your authority and your stability, right? So all of this is going on simultaneously. You're likely feeling unstable. You likely feel like you're trying to do all the best things that you possibly can to make your situation work out better, whatever area this is falling in your horoscope for you. And you've also got Ketu there connecting with the sun and connecting with the moon. What that energy is all about is feeling somehow as if you're not perfect enough. Like you're not doing as good of a job as you possibly could, and becoming a perfectionist and seeing the situation that you're dealing with and the challenge you're confronting and the fact that it's not budging. One part of you is going, well, I'm not doing good enough. I'm not doing that which is right. I'm going to lose my honor. I feel low about myself. I'm losing my dignity. So I then must continue to, in true Saturn-Pluto conjunction manner, and those two planets are in Uttada Ashadha Nakshatra, which is connected to the sun, you're just becoming more and more determined, right? Only that determination, as Saturn and Pluto are forming an aspect with Neptune in Purva Nakshatra, is causing you to get frustrated because it's not going in the direction ultimately that you would like for it to go. So you can amplify that as much as you like, or you can try to have a good level of humility. I know I left out Ketu Moon. Ketu Moon relates to just kind of suppressing your emotions. You feel like you have to suppress your emotions in order to just get on with things. But it's probably better to explore that vulnerability. That vulnerability, if you approach it with a decent level of humility, is going to provide you with the answers that you really need to know. Now, at the root of all of this, you may find yourself in a position where you're going, I know I'm doing the right thing right, here in my heart. I know the steps that I'm taking are absolutely right and appropriate. And if that is truly the case upon deeper examination, then you should, by all means, hold to it. It doesn't mean you're not going to be tested. It doesn't mean things are going to go your way. But it does mean that if you hold to that which you know which is right, but if you're equally willing to let go of that which no longer fits in your life, then ultimately you're going to come out the other side of this transit in a much more empowered manner. So as the old saying goes, you really shouldn't fear the reaper, right? Because the reaper, even though the reaper may bring death or change in one area of our life, much along the lines of Shiva, because remember, Pluto's connected to Shiva, then he's also going to bring new birth in other areas of our life along the lines of Uranus, which is in Ashwini, which is holding to that which is right and true. So to really understand the play of the outer planets, you really need to look at the nodal axis. And as I mentioned at the outset of this video, I'm presently offering a 15% discount on all astrological services until Thursday, the 28th of November at 11 p.m. London time. You simply need to use the discount code TEALConsult at the link above. So thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like a deeper exploration of how this is likely going to play out in your horoscope, I suggest scheduling a consultation. Thanks a lot for watching this video on the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Purva Ashadha Nakshatra and the solar eclipse in Purva Ashadha Nakshatra. Bye now.